What's up, everyone? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Hello, my name is Nikki Marie. I have an amazing guest. She is originally from Detroit, Michigan, so we are going to say hello, welcome to the show. Please introduce yourself and let everyone know why you are here.
Good morning, everyone. I am Anistia Thomas. I am a candidate running for Michigan State Representative District 7. I am a passionate 22-year-long volunteer in the community, seeking to bring more resources to my district, as well as making decisions that affect our entire state.
So this is major, first off. So welcome to the show. I guess we can go over what would be your responsibilities and what are some of your core goals for change?
Oh, great. So, core responsibilities that a state representative is responsible for is managing the budget when it comes to the appropriations that are set aside for the district and what comes in to help support it, in addition to utilizing the platform as a state representative to bring more community resources to benefit their district.
And what would be some of the goals? You don't have to name all of them, but just your major top 3 goals, because we're all trying to win a title. And I believe there's 7 candidates in total, you were included, but each person has a different goal. So I want to know what your goals are, at least the top 3.
Yes, so there are actually 8 candidates. There are 7 Democratic candidates. So
gotcha. Okay.
There is one Republican candidate that is in the race that automatically advances to the general election. And so I have 3 action items, which are titled as protection, progression, and prosperity. And one of those action items has advocacy goals, and it has acts and bills that I've been working on. Most of them I have been working on for the past 2 years in developing, meaning that these actions are set to go and enact and going into a bill form or advocacy form day 1 of my election, a formal election of being in office. So because I feel that there are so many issues that we're currently having, particularly with our pandemic and also policing reform, which policing reform has become an actual platform that I've recently added based upon what has happened, particularly with what's been happening in the community itself. So making that as a part of my core goal is really important to me because it affects our inner city community, particularly my district. And so one of my advocacy goals is family advocacy. And so being able to support the family, 63% of my district is Black female. And many of them are a single mother household. So being able to provide resources and solutions to support the Black single female who is educated, even if she's in low income or working class, since there's a $50,000 annual income or median within my district. And so we have to make sure that we're developing solutions that support them. So one of them includes universal child care. Another one is a non-custodial tax credit for those who are to encourage child support to be paid in regards to that. And also really providing more educational resources from a digital standpoint for our children, because right now our children aren't able to really learn. And being able to provide those socioeconomic resources when it comes to the internet. The other side of my district includes Highland Park. So it's not just Detroit. I actually represent 2 cities. And so these 2 cities they have some similarities as far as needs, but they do have 2 distinct major concerns. And so Highland Park, 67% of Highland Park lacks access to internet. And so when we talk about that, we have to look at how we can support households that have children, and even those who are learning, period, in education, how we're able to make sure that that is included in our budget to support, because you have people who have these households, they have to make a difference between whether they want to put food on the table or pay the internet bill.
Right.
And so those are real key issues that people are really having. So like a person like me, I can't afford to pay $10 a month for internet and things like that. That's fine with me. But there are people in my district that cannot. And so we have to be very conscious of that when we're making our decisions and how we're able to really help people, and not just think that the basis of the resources that people have immediate access to it, but we have to also consider the barriers that are attached to it in order for them to receive their resources. So I always make sure that I'm trying to look beyond the surface of the solution, because we got to look at every intricate step of that. Another key goal of mine that's really important is auto insurance reform. Right now, we have a law that was passed where we're seeing that there hasn't been much change for many of the residents in the district in their auto insurance rates, and the differences that are happening with them having to sacrifice adequate coverage for their medical if there was an accident. And so I'm looking at auditing commission suggestions that would really address a lot of the reigning concerns that our constituents are having. Now, the third major thing that's important to me, lastly, is small business support. So we have a large percentage of Black small businesses that are in the area. Many of them are closing up. Many of them aren't able to pay their employees. And so many of those solutions for me is I've actually been working with minority banks that are outside of our city that are willing to come into my district to help fund and support the existing businesses, those who are looking to start up, as well as also personal loans to help those that are looking to acquire property or also repair their property as far as emergency funding. I think we have to look outside of the box. Because we have to look at our bankers that we don't really know, because that are minority owned, looking to invest within our communities ourselves. But we have to make sure that we're becoming consumers of those banks to support them in order to put the money back into the communities where they belong. So that's really important to me as well.
Yeah. Some of the things that I do focus on is the support of Black-owned businesses. And now you see that even more where everyone is saying, buy Black, buy Black. For just some of the things that you may have experienced throughout your life, what led you to politics?
Well, I never considered myself to even be involved in politics, frankly. I've been a community servant since I was, 8 years old, frankly. I was a Girl Scout for 12 years. I was Governor's Honor Guard in high school. I was even class representative in high school, which I guess that is towards politics without really realizing it. that was my first political role, technically. But I was a former wife of a former state representative who then turned a senator after that, in which, frankly, my seat technically is a seat that he had, I think, over 2 years ago or so. It was a while ago that I'm actually running for. And so in that role as being a mate to him, I was very present in supporting the agenda of being a community support, being present and, just being proactive with Black clubs and, all the things that come with that, being attached to someone who's in the political field and having to be dedicated to the constituents of this very district every day. And so I do have experience in that. And then also I was a legislative advocate for insurance when I was a licensed agent where I did champion a lot of advocacy and insurance reform and change in Lansing as a separate advocate for that. So what really led me from there that really hit home was that I had received a call a few years ago from a resident in Highland Park who had received a letter of property insurance saying there were property fees that needed to be paid that were like back fees. To make a long story short, they weren't getting momentum from City Hall at that time, and we found out that there were over 2,500 properties that had been affected by the same concern. And so I decided to take on that task and holding an emergency town hall and doing research and bringing in civil rights associations and ACLU and other, and HUD actually as well, to look further into to see what was really happening with that particular case. Mm-hmm. And so as a result of that, we were able to find out that those the enforcement was invalid, and we were able to save all of those properties from being what I call gentrified. And so that's when it hit home for me. It hit home for me because I realized from hearing all of the different residents in my district, they were frantic because they were potentially losing their assets and things that were dear to them. Some of them, many of them, it was their own home that they had been in for over 40, 50 years. And they were low income, of course. And so I said, well, we have to have leadership that really cares about the community, where they really understand what's happening and being able to communicate to their residents as to what the truth really is, and being transparent in that, and someone who's really going to fight for them, as opposed to leading in the way of a propaganda focused type of political field. And so I know that we have a lot of that, whether there's political action committees that are funding the way to go another direction. My whole thing for me is having endorsements of the voter. Yeah. The voter matters to me, and being able to have their support, and because they elect me to do the job for them. Like, I work for them. It's not the other way around. And I think many politicians have lost sight of that because of the privatized agendas that are happening on another side that deter them away from really leading them to be more of a support system and solution-oriented representative for the people who elected them.
Mm-hmm. That's important to bring up. Voting. A lot of people would say, well, I'm not going to vote because I don't even see a good candidate to vote for. But I think they're putting it based off of who's actually running for the presidential election, but not really seeing all the other areas of voting. So how does that statement make you feel when someone says, well, I'm not voting because there's no good candidate?
Well, of course, there are two sides to that. I'm going to say you need to vote. I mean, voting is important to me. Your voice has to be heard. And even if you don't like the candidates that's there, you do have the right to exercise your right to write in a candidate. Mm-hmm. You know, even though you feel that statistically you're going to win, but it's just the fact of being proactive in that. And of course, I believe in being an educated voter. I believe that you should really look at what a candidate has done, what their track record is, and not if the candidate is really putting out advocacy and solutions when they're running. And that's it, because that gives you a good indicator where that person's authenticity is as a candidate. And also, but I also get why people don't vote in the realm of not feeling like if I vote, nothing's going to change. It doesn't affect my community. Yeah. But, and that's really apparent in Highland Park because we have almost a little close to 12,000 residents. and yet on an average, on a high end of voting, about 1,200 votes. So we've got a very large number of people who do not believe in the system and the change, and they don't believe in the leadership locally to really get involved. And so for me, I've been working with advocacy groups and voter engagement specifically for that demographic, because they matter. You know, their feelings matter. The fact that they're not voting, there are reasons for that.
Yeah.
And so I'm not a candidate that's solely focused in on making sure I'm addressing the needs of the people that vote or conversating. I go out and I talk to people who aren't voting, period, because the reality of it is we need them engaged. We can look at what's happening right now as a result of not voting and how we lost millions of lives globally. And that, if that doesn't wake anybody up, I don't know what else will. But I do think the reality of it is that a lot of people in our inner city communities are facing trauma every day. Yeah. And so a lot of things that are on a national platform that we're looking at and we're saying, oh my goodness, it's an unfortunate situation in the hood and in the inner city. These are things that happen to people every day. And so they're like, this is normalized for them. So they're like, okay, well then what are you gonna do for our community then? We've been dealing with this for years, for decades, whatever you want to call it. And so we've just got to get more connected with that and really paying attention to addressing why people don't vote, as opposed to just kind of shoving them off to the side and saying, oh, you don't vote, whatever.
How does it work for everyone to vote for you?
So
or support you in some way?
It works in the realm because of the things that I have done, specifically that are results oriented. And when I state of what the state representative role represents, I was the operations budget manager for my brother's keeper underneath the Obama administration. I have a finance background for over 18 years. I have brought over $1 billion in startup funding with working with the Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago's African American initiative to bring character-based lending to small businesses in the metropolitan Detroit area because of the lack of capital and credit scores that Black businesses have a tendency to not have, and giving them opportunity. I can say that. I can also say that I've brought over $205 million so far in counting to Highland Park for the future development for public infrastructure, educational programs, and also Medicare and Medicaid for that very district. So, and also, I can also say that an insurance exchange that I started in 2014 to help lower auto and home insurance rates for Detroit partners in my district has helped save up to 62% in their rates while they're still trying to figure it out. And I can go on from there, but I can say that I actually have had action, results-oriented tasks, and by being a state representative, I would be able to do even more that would be able to not only impact District 7, but also impacting our entire state overall by making those types of decisions and pushing it in landscape. The other thing is I also have the ability to work across the aisle. And I think that's really important in getting things done when it comes to Lansing, because there are two different types of landscapes to me. You've got, when you're in the community, you got your boots on the ground, it's a different type of advocacy and landscape and environment as opposed to when you're up in Lansing. You definitely have to have someone who really has those relationships and able to have the ability to work with those that don't necessarily like myself, but being able to have those hard conversations and negotiations and discussions in order for us to move progressively forward as a political unit. And I am definitely the candidate that has the ability to do that.
Yeah, that's awesome. A few just key things that I want to bring up a little bit. Clean water, the pandemic, and also police reform or defunding the police. You're kind of working on a little bit of everything. How do you handle a situation where there's police brutality, there's no clean water, and there's still the pandemic that's just lingering around, the COVID-19? How do you even deal with all of that?
Right. There's so many different and parts and components that go with that, and which is why my basis for this entire campaign is this economic platform, because it pretty much goes to everything. When you're talking about clean water, you have to have the funding in order to repair the pipes and take them out, and in order to purify the water. My district has a high lead content. It's actually as high as Flint, higher than Flint, over Highland Park. And it has not been fully corrected. So we still have homes that are getting groundwater over there. It's not even talked about in the major news right now. The people are actually suffering in that in my district with that, which is one of the reasons why I championed the census, because of the funding that comes through that to help repair the pipes. And that's where that $205 million that I'm looking to double by October is coming from, is to help repair the pipes in the water, for instance. Secondly, when we talk about our police reform, right now, the model that we have is more of a warrior model, as opposed to one that is more of a public safety type of model, as far as being one that is viewed as an ally in the community, one that makes people feel that it is an organization that is for the community and represents and protects, fully protects. Right now, it is, people don't feel protected from the police. They feel threatened as opposed to that. And then there's no trust there. And so then there's the fear that is circulating all the way down. Our children are scared. See a police officer terrified of them. In my district, I can say that. So I've actually developed several solutions, which I feel would help to address police reform. And I know that there are different concepts of defunding the police. I believe that you have to take funds that are allocated for a police budget and shift them to community based programs and solutions to fund that. Meaning that we need to introduce legislation to establish a permanent special prosecutor's office and attorney general's office in cases of police violence, in order to make sure that if a civilian has a concern, that is really looked into. We have to make sure that, I want to make sure as a legislator that I'm able to see every case that's coming through, at least from my district, of what's happening from police activity. I want to see the activity report of police officers, what they're doing, if they're misconduct, what they're doing as far as how they're interacting with those in my community, and things like that, to be extra checks and balances of accountability I also believe there should be a community mentorship program where police officers are trained to learn their community. Like, officers should be required to get to know the people in the community police. They should be required to mentor at least 40 hours a year with youth in our community to learn more. And also, it also gives our youth and our future leaders a different perspective as to looking at possibly being a police officer as a potential career choice, as opposed to being something that is not. And that's the other thing, is that we don't see enough police officers of color around. Well, that's the reason for that. Part of the reason is because the what the whole image looks like and what it has shown based upon the unfortunate circumstances. But also the other side is the red tape you have to go through in order to qualify to be an officer. That also restricts youth of color to have the ability to even be one. And so those are concerns that definitely need to be addressed.
Yeah. I think that it's kind of, not even kind of, but I think that it's unfortunate that a lot of law enforcement, it seems they're having psychological breakdowns or they're having fear. And, you know, we talk about, or some podcasters, we talk about being unapologetically Black. And, you know, you see a police officer, especially one that's white, it seems like he's already put that guard up and he's already afraid. And then he or she makes an attempt on your life. So it's really hard, because I see from like where you are, there's a higher percentage of Black people. So I just wanted to kind of get your take on what would be done in terms of psychological testing or something that can help people determine that this officer has a trigger or this officer is racist. Because a lot of officers will go into it and they'll be fine or they'll lie, but they're actually an internal racist, and then now it becomes something that's outward and they start to develop this anger and this frustration, and then they murder someone.
Mental wellness should be high priority on our list like yesterday. Yeah. And we used to have a mental institution clinic here, and it's no longer. There are not enough mental wellness support places at all, like there should be. And I also think that is also strategically designed for that to happen. That also puts people out into the street that really should have support. I also think that if we did have those systems in place, it would also serve as an alternative to those who are often in prison as solutions, as opposed to being jailed based upon behavior and track records of different things. Because there's a reason for that, because our communities need healing, our people need healing. Yes. We need healing, all of us need healing now because of all the trauma that we have suffered. We've suffered, I think, I always say the Great Depression, the riots, all those things, all in just a few months that have happened decades ago that usually affect people every 10 years. We've had that in before even 6 months even hit of this year. So there's a lot of loss that people are suffering from, and so we are traumatized as a people, period, as a community. And so when you talk about mental health and wellness for police officers, I think we have to also be conscious of the fact that they see a lot of trauma every day. And so I think, whether it is killing someone dead or coming in encounter with detrimental situations and putting their lives at risk all the time, and seeing all those types of traumatic events definitely puts a mental toll and psychological toll on them. So I do think that there needs to be the funding that goes towards policing budget. There definitely needs to be a budget carved out that requires them to get mental health and support to really help through. And that should be required, not even an option.
Yeah.
And also training as well when it comes to policing the community. I think there should be an actual training that's developed plan for that and how to do that as well. Because when you're actually learning more to communicate and also engage with your community, you'll learn to have more love that you're feeling from people and appreciation from people in your community, which actually helps to heal your soul. I think in what you do to help inspire for what you're doing. And I think you're less likely to have fear of the people in your community if you're getting to know them and you know that they are getting to know you and they are and they embrace you more.
Yeah. I can hear the applause from your responses. I really and sincerely hope that once you are in the office, you'll be able to control it the way you want to, and for the people, not just for, the others.
Yeah, I would like to see fellow colleagues that are in the same position as state representative to work with me on these efforts, because it's going to take all of us to collectively make this happen. It's not something that I can do alone.
Yeah.
However, it is something that I can do my part in and do everything I can that is within my power to make sure that we are moving our communities towards a better place.
Yeah. Well, thank you for taking the time to speak with me. You are definitely that girl.
Thank you. On your show, I'm so humbled to be here.
Oh, no problem. It was such an honor just to get that email. So I was like, yes, Black Girl Magic.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
But you enjoy the rest of your day, and I also want everyone to be able to either follow you on social media or be able to support you as well on your journey.
Yeah, so anyone who's looking to reach me, I have a few platforms. So one, you can go to my website at www.thomasfortomorrow.com, which is THOMASFOR tomorrow.com. And I'm also on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter under @ThomasForTomorrow. It's very easy, and if you're looking to look me up, Anistia, ANISTIA, which means prosperity 100 times fold, I believe. Anistia Thomas. You can also connect with me. Feel free to email me at info@thomasfortomorrow.com as well, and my office or myself will get right back to you.
Yes. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I am your host, Nikki Marie, and you can follow me on Instagram at NikkiMarie_radio, and that is 1K. What's up, everyone? It's your favorite podcast host, Nikki Marie. I wanted to give you some information about Anchor. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. First of all, it's free, and free is for me. They have creation tools that will allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or even your computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast in so many places to be heard, like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and so many others. You can even make money with minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. I can't wait to hear your podcast.